Hey, KeyForge Corner here. So today we're going to talk about the possible top 7 cards of Age of Ascension, one of each house. The rule for today is obviously that we're only talking about the new cards, so no old ones allowed, which did make it a bit difficult for me to choose a good Bronnarc one, but hey, it does still have some good stuff to talk about. So, let's jump right into it, shall we? The first one we have is for Mars. We have Martian Generosity. You play this, you lose all of your amber, and draw 2 cards for each amber lost. Now, when you first look at this card, you might think of it as more of a mediocre card. Like, you lose all of your amber, so it's gonna take you longer to get to your key, right? And whilst I do have to agree with that logic, Martian Generosity can be really broken when combined with other cards in Mars. So for example, if you have Martian Generosity and Battle Fleet, you're gonna draw all day long if you have a decent amount of amber. And similarly, if you have, I believe, 5 amber in your amber pool, you have Martian Generosity and you have Key Abduction in your hand, you don't need any Mars creatures on the field for this setup. If you just have 5 amber, Martian Generosity, and Key Abduction, you have an instant key just like that. Because of how much you get to draw from Martian Generosity, and then from how much Key Abduction is gonna let you lower the key cost to the amount of amber you have right now. So this can be a really ridiculous card, not only because of the advantage that you'll get, because let's remember we're playing a card game, so the more cards you have, the bigger your advantage, but also because of the fact that Mars has a pretty good key cheating card, which perfectly synergizes with Martian Generosity. So I do feel like this is going to be quite a thing in the future of Age of Ascension. Now the next one we have is for logos. We have Memory Chip. Now this, in my opinion at least, is a pretty good card. I do feel like by itself this card is decent, but if you have multiple copies of Memory Chip, that's when you really start going crazy. Because let's say you have 2 memory chips, every time you start picking logos from that moment on, you'll archive 2 cards, pretty much letting you ready up any sort of big play for the future. And whilst it's not the strongest one from our list today, I still feel like for logos it's a pretty strong contender for a good card to not only look for in an Age of Ascension deck, but also a good card that's gonna be seeing some play in the future if it has multiple copies. That's at least, my opinion. It is an uncommon, so it's not the easiest thing to have multiple copies of it, but I did play with a deck that has 2 memory chips and I was satisfied. So I feel like this might be a pretty cool card to have. Next we have Shadows. Now here we're going to talk about Shard of Greed. No, not this Shard of Greed. Get your mind out of the gutter. This Shard of Greed. Now this is a pretty interesting card. It's one of the new Shard cards, so let's give you a quick explanation on how they work. Shard cards work around each other. So for example, with Shard of Greed, you have action, gain 1 amber for each friendly shard, and it's an artifact, so you use it every Shadow's turn. And friendly shard pretty much means other shard artifacts which you possess, which you have. And since when you usually have a shard deck, you usually have 1 shard for each of the houses, once you build up your artifact lineup big enough, you're going to reap some nice benefits with Shard of Greed, being able to, every time you have a Shadow's turn, just gain 1, 2, or 3 ambers just for free. It's really great, because this card at worst is going to be a Secret Needle, which doesn't have to kill any bad pennies, and that's just, it's so good. You don't have to worry about any sort of bad penny Secret Needle synergy. This thing just gives you a bunch of amber, just like that for each shard which you possess. So pretty strong contender, pretty strong. Next off we have Shadow of This. Talking about shadows, right? This is a pretty good one. It's an action. You play it until your next turn. Enemy creatures' text boxes are considered blank, well, except for the traits, so things like Giant or Martian. This stays, but no effects, so all play effects are gone, all reap effects which are already on the field won't be activated, same with action effects. Continuous effects also don't matter anymore. With Shadow of This, you pretty much slow your opponent down. You gain an amber, which is obviously great with these type of cards. you slow your opponent down so he doesn't do any crazy stuff with reaping, like because of reap effects or action effects or play effects. You pretty much slow your opponent down quite hard with this card, because until your next turn they don't have any effects, meaning that you don't have to worry about certain cards which your opponent might have on the field. I just feel like this card is pretty good. So far, looking at KeyForge Compendium, there are 0 decks with Shadow of this. But I'm sure that once we see some decks with this card, especially with multiple copies, we will see this card's true potential. I do feel like this card is pretty good. Now, for Sanctum, we have Proclamation free for 6E. Now, this is another artifact, and it says that while your opponent does not control creatures from 3 different houses, their keys cost +2 amber. Why this is so good is because you always have a turn before your opponent can try to forge a key. Of course, except he's key cheating, but if he just wants to do it in his forge a key step, you always have the extra turn to stop him from having any sort of creatures on the field. So destroy whatever he has so this rule stays there. Now next we have Heart of the Forest, one of the most brutal ones which we have. You gain an amber, and each player cannot forge keys while they have more forged keys than their opponent. Effectively, this makes it so you stall. You just wait. And you think to yourself, this isn't so bad. This is a balance card. Your opponent won't just speed his way to keys like they used to do in Call of the Archon's Hunting Witch decks. You know, it's not going to be crazy like that. They can't do it. They'll stay on all this amber, and we'll have to wait. Now, the problem with this is that this isn't the only thing that's going to be happening. Your opponent isn't just going to stay there and you will do nothing. You, in the meantime, if you're going to use this card right, are going to prepare a turn to OTK your opponent. What you're going to do is get enough amber to make a key the moment when you have a key cheating turn ready. So let's say your opponent has 2 keys and you have 1. He can't forge because of this card. He passes his turn, you forge a key because you had enough amber. And now you're going to key cheat your way to victory to your 3rd key because you made your opponent wait until you had enough stuff. It's effectively not a balancing tool as much as a heavy control card which says, hold on, I am going to make 2 keys in 1 turn and you can't do anything about it. And since we're this deep into the video, I might as well address the fact that most of the best cards of this set are artifacts. And one of the reasons for that is that there are not many artifact control cards in this set, meaning that artifacts are very likely going to stay on the field, which is especially why this card is so good, because it's gonna stay there until you're ready to just utterly destroy your opponent. Anyway, the last one we have for today is Bronnarc, and this was a bit difficult, as I mentioned at the beginning, because in my opinion there aren't that many great Bronnarc cards in this set, but there is this one which is very interesting, Might Makes Right. Now this is a new key cheating card. You gain an amber, you play this action, and you may sacrifice any number of creatures with a total power of 25 or more, and if you do, forge a key at no cost. Now what is so cool about this is that you have the new Lollup the Giant, which has 11 power. So effectively, in a good Bronnarc deck, you can have 2 Lollups on the field, just basically any Bronnarc. Like, let's not joke around here and say, oh, but you've got so many 2-power Bronnarcs now. No, just say any Bronnarc besides Lollup, and you have a key by sacrificing 3 creatures. Now, as I said, this is a very specific setup, so you need a good Bronnarc for it, which is very rare, I might say. But if this does work, this is pretty good, because you just get a free key like that, and your Bronnarcs don't need to be ready, so you can just place them the same turn, sacrifice them, and have a key for free. In some situations, it's easier than other key cheating cards, you know? So I do feel like this card does show some power. Okay, so those are what I think are the best cards of each house for this set, at least as far as I see the set now. We'll see how the meta of KeyForge is going to develop in this coming month, and if Age of Ascension is going to just be weaker than Call of the Archons, or if there's gonna be some sort of balance between them, and if the Age of Ascension decks are actually able to stand ground to Call of the Archons. So we'll see how that's gonna work out, but for now I feel like looking for decks with these cards and the certain circumstances I talked about will be very beneficial for you. So I hope you keep on forging those keys. I'm the KeyForge Corner, and I will see you tomorrow.